seeking sympathy from listeners.
She is just focused on punishing those who oppose his late husband.
Captive thousands of people.
Had the sign as the poster boy for anti-Marcos movements.
About her husband Ninoy Aquino and all of the Filipinos who struggled during the steady dictatorship government of the late President Marcos.
She also discussed about how Marcos suspended the Philippine Constitution and shut down the Congress, resulting in Ninoy's death.
Despite the fact that former President Cory and President Marcos ultimately failed us,
and that we must remain vigil over it unless we lost it.
That she will defend the honor of the freedom of the country.
It's about asking help from the Americans to keep freedom and democracy in our nation.
After she helped bring back a sense of democracy of the Philippines.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marie Chris Layugan, a student in Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Level 1 from Section L. My thoughts to her speech, I think, was to remind the U.S. of their role in the world when it comes to promoting democracy and aiding countries with it, and that we must remain vigil over it unless we lose it. This was right after she helped bring back a sense of democracy to the Philippines, with the Filipinos fighting for it. This seems relevant today, with many democracies in the world under siege by charismatic, populistic leaders who appeal on the emotional level to the masses while trying to undermine their country's democracy to retain and grow their own power. That's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Alisa Jerka S. Guillermo from BSN 1L Level 1. This is my reaction about the speech of former President Cory Aquino. The speech of the late former President Mrs. Cory Aquino was very cringing for me because after they got what she wanted, she forgot her responsibility as a president, and she is just focused on punishing those who oppose his late husband, and her being a president at that time was not for the Filipinos, but for her family and her late husband. She just wanted to avenge her husband. Then after that, she published articles about the martial law full of lies. She was driven in anger and was focused on getting back to their oppositions. I base my reaction to what I have read in our lesson. From what she has said many times, her suffering as a wife and as a mother, and suffering of their family from the loss of the senator rooted their hatred. From Aquinos to their allies, you are still a huge clown for me, and from what my grandparents witnessed during your term. From the term of Cory Aquino to Ninoy Aquino, the Philippines experienced chaos, and I greatly disagree to her speech because those fights can't help us stand.
Hello everyone, I am Ralph Angelo Bigamis, a student and Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Level 1, Section L. I'm going to react the speech of the late former President Corazon Aquino during the joint session of the United States Congress delivered at Washington, D.C. on September 18, 1986. On the first part of her speech, she emphasized her grief on the loss of her husband Benigno Aquino. It was started and decorated by uncountable reference to her husband, whom the Filipino nation had assigned as the poster boy for anti-Marcos movements. As the anti-Marcos part, she talked Marcos being a dictator and trampled on Philippine democracy and jailed thousands of people. She addressed on the speech about the struggle and untimely death of her husband, all the while interlinking their family's history with the fate of the entire country and seeking sympathy from the listeners. She also sought help in addressing the $26 billion of foreign debt, and the communist insurgency grew from 500 armed guerrillas to 6,000 during Marcos' regime. President Aquino asked the American government to forgive some of the huge debts of the Philippines owed to the U.S. and International Monetary Fund, citing that much of the money were stolen by Marcos. On the last part of her speech, she claimed that today Philippines and America join together as a new home for democracy. Another hope for the oppressed, so it may stand a shining testament of the two nations' commitments for freedom. Unfortunately, after Aquino's term, just a little difference happened. It is still the same, and there is still no genuine economic and social transformation agenda which is mentioned in her speech. And sad to think that those promises are just a phrase of promises, maybe due to some leaders behind her that can't avoided. But with due respect to Her Excellency, Corazon Aquino is still an inspiration to the Filipinos since she took the lead towards freedom.
Hi guys, my name is Albert Warenderay, and today I'm gonna do a brief reaction video about Corazon Aquino's speech. It's actually a long speech, but she mostly talked about the anti-Marcos propaganda, the debt of the Philippines, and also seeking help to the Americans. As to the anti-Marcos propaganda, she mostly talked about Marcos being a dictator, that Marcos didn't like Philippine democracy, and he captured thousands of people. She also talked regarding the large foreign debt, which she was soliciting for leniency from the foreign creditors, particularly the IMF World Bank. She also said that loans from foreign creditors went to the corrupt officers. However, there was no proof. Also, she told the Americans to support the Philippines, that a brand new era is done. But one thing I can say regarding her speech is that it was well done, but it could be the truth. However, it doesn't really paint the entire picture. Like what she said before, that the loans from the foreign creditors went to the corrupt officers. However, there was no proof, so we will never know. So that's all, and thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, my name is Clish Justina. Today I'm going to make a brief reaction about Corazon Aquino. The speech of late President Corazon Aquino before the United States Congress started with her late husband Ninoy Aquino was treated by the soldier who arrested him and placed under somewhere in the northern part of the country. She also asserted that the death of her husband, whom she described the martyr catalyst of the so-called bloodless revolution, or the EDSA people power, which resulted to the loss of the dictator President Ferdinand Marcos on exile in Hawaii. After which, being her restorer of the democracy, which was passed on her shoulder, as she said, a new draft of constitution is being made and being approved by the Constitution Commission. She also stated the insurgency raised during her predecessor regime, and she vows to trample them down on their knees to fight insurgency, heal the wound that has been unite the common good of the people. She also said that she will defend the honor of freedom of the country. Ending with the foreign debt, she was is massive and burden to the people. Mass poverty and unemployment is also seated. Unilateral talk with the U.S. President Ronald Reagan is consumed about the strengthening of friendship of our country and United States of America. Lastly, when she called the people in United States of America, is the leader of the proud and free people who adhere the commitment of the independent democracy even the foreign land thanked America as their haven and 3 happy years of freedom with her family. That's all. Thank you.
So good morning to each and everyone. I am Elizabeth Makalandang, and today I would like to share my brief reactions about the speech of Corazon C. Aquino. So the aim of my reactions is what is the relevance according to the documents of Corazon C. Aquino. So her speech, I think, was to remind the US of the role in the world when it comes to promoting democracy and aiding countries with it, and that we must remain vigilant over it unless we lose it. This was right after she helped bring back a senseless democracy to the Philippines, with the Filipinos fighting for it. This seems relevant today, with many democracies in the world under siege by charismatic populistic leaders who appeal the emotional level to the masses while trying to undermine their own country's democracy to retain and grow their own power. And that's all. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Dimple Jane Melad, a BSN 1L student. This is my reaction about the speech of Corazon Aquino before the US Congress. In her speech, she shared her experiences and sorrows for losing her husband Benigno Aquino III and a good father of her children. She also discussed about how Marcos suspended the Philippine Constitution and shut down the Congress, resulting in Ninoy's death. She also called the Americans to help the Philippines in preserving the freedom and democracy. For me, her speech is about impeaching the latest president. It is obvious that it is an anti-Marcos propaganda. She talked about Marcos being a dictator. She emphasized that the fight that they started was not wasted and it was not a nonsense one. That they, the Filipinos, put up a good fight against the administration. But her speech, in my opinion, was for her self-benefit. That's all.
I am Johanna May Moldero, and this is my brief reaction about Cory Aquino's speech. Cory Aquino's speech is about her husband Ninoy Aquino and all of the Filipinos who struggled during the said dictatorship government of the late President Marcos. In her speech, she said how much she grieved and how painful to see her husband being buried, but she didn't investigate who killed his beloved husband and point the blame to the Marcoses. And also about the imprisonment of Ninoy. Ninoy was not arrested because of speaking up about the democracy, but he was arrested because of the association with the NPA, or also known as the New People's Army. Though there's a lot of allegation about Ninoy, Marcos still permitted Ninoy to travel for his medical treatment. That is why I don't believe Cory that Ninoy was tortured. Also in her speech, she also talked about the debt of the Philippines made by the Marcos, but after declaring that we will pay the debt, she immediately asked for help in achieving that. And also the debt of the Aquinos is 3 times bigger than the Marcos. But during Marcos' regime, a lot of infrastructure were built unlike the Aquinos. After her speech, nothing changed. No genuine economic and social transformation. I think that we cannot entrust our redemption to another sovereign state, and rebellion is not the solution, but to address the causes. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Jake Angelo Maramag, a level 1 BSN student from Section L. And in today's video, I just want to share my opinion in regards to the speech of our former president, President Cory Aquino. I believe that each of us have different perspectives and political views regarding this issue. And the only thing we should do is to respect each other's opinion. We all deserve a level of respect from each other. And when it comes to expressing political thoughts, we must retain an even higher level of respect to avoid misunderstandings. Despite the fact that former President Cory and President Marcos ultimately failed us, I believe they did their best to make our country more progressive and peaceful. They still contributed and made sacrifices for the people and the country. And also I believe that they implemented projects and programs that help people with their social and economic needs. And regarding their issues, I think they shouldn't be blamed for the dreadful things that happened during their terms. It should be the people because they choose them as a leader. So they should take the responsibility for the consequences. One thing that I've learned in this activity is that we need to be wise on making decisions in every aspects of our life. And for the incoming elections, we need to vote wisely because voting wisely is an act of practical wisdom. If we choose wise leaders, they will help make the rest of the society wiser too. Let's have a habit of respecting our similarities and differences and being one with the government. Only then we can achieve the progress we have been eyeing on.
Hello everyone, my name is Daphne Filome Bilangkit from BSN 1L, and this is my brief reaction to the speech of the former President Corazon Aquino, the first female President of the Philippines. Based on my understanding, her speech was about two topics. The first one is about the dictatorship of the Marxes. She kept telling that the Marxes are inhumane, that they are killers, that they abuse their powers to mistreat people, where in fact Ferdinand E. Marcos declared martial law to protect the people from the New People's Army, to protect them from being killed. But the Aquinos hated him because Ninoy Aquino, the husband of Corazon Aquino, was convicted because of a crime, murder, and illegal possession of firearms, which is said to be linked to the New People's Army. However, when Ninoy got sick, the Marcoses sent him to America to be treated. And after 3 years of living there, he came back to the Philippines and died because of assassination. The second topic of the speech of Corazon Aquino is about asking help from the Americans to keep freedom and democracy in our nation. And this is indeed a good strategy to boost the economy because of the help of America. However, when I asked my parents and did my research about the time of Corazon Aquino, I was disappointed because all her promises that she mentioned in her speech never happened, and the Philippines became poor, and now we all suffer from it. And these are all my reactions. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Jamaica Dulay from BSN 1L. So here's my video reaction about Cory Aquino's speech. Her speech, I think, was to remind the US of their role in the world when it comes to promoting democracy and aiding countries with it, and that we must remain vigilant over it unless we lose it. This was right after she helped bring back a sense of democracy of the Philippines, with the Filipinos fighting for it when former President of the Philippines Corazon C. Aquino gave a speech to United States Congress on September 1986. She called on America to help our country in maintaining the freedom. Cory Aquino's speech was started and decorated by uncountable references to her husband, former Senator Ninoy Aquino, whom the Filipino nation had assigned as the poster boy for anti-Marcos movements. Her speech was to connect Ninoy's struggle with that of the whole nation, all the while interlinking families' history with the fate of the entire country. Her character contribute in no little manner to keeping the fight against Marcos peaceful. As well, in this she offered an example to others outside of the Philippines. The EDSA revolution that she inspired thus inspired the people around the world to accent against oppression.